Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words, tolerated. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. I had the best words. God bless the United States.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation, everybody, welcome to the show. It is Monday. We got a brand new week. Really terrible news, of course, happened over the weekend. The loss of Ruth Bader Ginsburg from the Supreme Court, opening up a Supreme Court seat. We're going to talk a lot about that today. So we've got a lot of related news to this, especially considering how fast Donald Trump's going to try to fill that seat. And we know he's going to fill that seat because we've got Kayleigh McEnany going on the record and saying it is very that they're going to put up a nominee even before they bury Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So that's where we're at. Then we've got, of course, who might replace RBG. Then we've got, of course, DOJ going after liberal cities, New York, Portland, etc. What's an anarchist jurisdiction? I'm going to basically explain that. So we're going to talk about that. Then we've got video of a little bit of voter intimidation. I guess I will let you be the judge of that. But we've got video nonetheless. So we're going to get into it. Before you do, please like and share the stream. Very, very important that you do so. Helps us out greatly. No, Sam. Not yet. Lots of comments, too, by the way. I really enjoy these, reading these comments. And so that is one way that you can be part of the show. Commenting, and, of course, liking, sharing, all that good stuff. Super chats, always welcome. All right, so we're going to do that. A little bit of news, by the way, for this show this week. A little bit of a shorter week than usual. So we'll be doing, of course, shows today, tomorrow, all the way through Thursday, and then we'll be off for 4 days. So for the weekend and 2 additional days, Friday and Monday. So we're going to do that. Anyway, yeah, Weary Pirates, absolutely. I agree. Get the Pitchfork says they have to get a nominee before the election to help make it sure Trump gets another term. And even to have some insurance that, even if Trump loses, that they continue to wield significant amounts of power. And so either way, it's something that they're going to do. And we need to stop them. And are we going to do anything to stop them? Are the Democrats actually doing anything to stop them? Well, I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So, anyway, that said, I guess we should just dive into it, starting with, of course, what Trump said about Biden over the weekend. So, all right. Lovely for me, sad for us. No, sad for all of us. Believe me. I'm not happy about that. Okay. Anyway. President Donald Trump just threatened to call off the 2020 election. Take a look.
We can joke, we can play games, we can have fun. You can't have this guy as your president. You can't have... Maybe I'll sign an executive order. You cannot have him as your president.
Cheers and applause. Hey, guess Natalie Portman was right. That's how democracy dies, with thunderous applause. I know, but anyway, look. This is an amazing statement. Even if it, and I know it's going to be spun as like, oh, no, you don't understand. It was a joke. He was joking about making sure that, I do an executive order, which, by the way, he doesn't have the power to do so, to try to keep Joe Biden off the ballot. Understand, though, right, that, first of all, thank goodness you can't do that. But then, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of democracy? Is that your problem? Oh, no, I actually do think I know why he's afraid, right? Because there's investigations into him. I think that he's afraid that if he loses, that he's going to end up going to jail, right? That's got to be a fear on his mind. Now, why would he go to jail? Again, numerous financial crimes, fraud, the stuff that, the Southern District of New York, by the way, is investigating, all that stuff. He's afraid that there's going to be political retribution. Whether or not there would actually be, would this really happen? I don't necessarily know. Democrats have been incredibly weak on all of that. And so there might be a situation that if Donald Trump loses, or I should say it's very likely that if Donald Trump loses, that's the situation, Democrats will be like, it's fine. No, we're not going to do any investigations into Donald Trump. We're going to end that stuff. Because it turns out it was just all political. We don't care when rich people screw people over. And by the way, related news today, Deutsche Bank, once again, has been found to have been money laundering. So for the world's incredibly wealthy. You guys remember the Panama Papers? Where it, turns out that rich people were money laundering and doing all sorts of illegal things with their billions. Does anybody remember that? No, because nobody talked about it for the last 4 years. I remember talking about this and reporting on it in my show, and nothing happened. Nothing happened whatsoever. And so do I think that Democrats would actually focus, if Donald Trump loses, on investigating his financial crimes and then putting Donald Trump in prison afterwards? Absolutely not, because that's not how power works. Nonetheless, Donald Trump is a very fearful person because, well, he's a conspiracy theorist. He's never met a conspiracy in life, and he's a master at projection. And so, what he would want to do to his opponents, and what he has talked about doing to his opponents, jailing Hillary Clinton, wanting to jail Joe Biden, or not Biden, sorry, to jail Obama. I mean, he's talked about it. Would he actually do it? If he has enough power, let's hope we don't have to find out. So, nonetheless, I think this is like the whole idea would be a self-preservation move because of reprisal. And so, understand that that's kind of why he also wants to declare victory before all the votes are counted on November 3rd. That's a real problem, right? Because we have a pandemic. And in a pandemic, a lot of people decided to vote by mail. So absentee ballots, things like that. So those votes are counted slower than in-person voting. So if there's an appearance, right? If there's an appearance that Donald Trump is winning because the in-person votes are being counted first, and that's going to be a majority of his base going out and voting, while the slower votes, the ones that take longer, will primarily be for Joe Biden, well, then he's going to say, well, that's it. I won November 3rd. These other votes that are coming in, 2, 3, 4 days afterwards don't count And it's just evidence of fakery. And that's it. Well, that's not true at all, but he's going to say that, and he's going to try to continue to maintain power. And so that's a real problem, as I said. And look, the reason it's going to shake out that way is because Republicans don't give a shit about COVID. Like, we know this. They've been urged to vote in person. I've reported on this before, where Republican Congressman and Donald Trump himself said, don't vote by mail. No, don't vote by mail. Go and vote in person, because he plans to not count these mail-in ballots, and calls them, he's already been on a crusade over the last few months, calling mail-in voting fraudulent, even though he and his family have used mail-in ballots before, and he actually even used them this time. Doesn't matter, because if more Democrats use mail-in voting, then he's going to look at those and say, well, we got to get rid of those because I can't lose to Joe Biden. Can't do it. November, it's looking like it's going to get bad. I have a feeling that it's going to be real bad. It's amazing. And look, again, this is somebody who perceives this losing an election as opening himself up to being to having political retribution. Now, Donald Trump's a guy who's had a lifetime of white-collar criminality. But if he loses the election, and this is the way he's framing it, by the way, is that he's going to end up being, having the establishment go after him and make him a quote-unquote political prisoner. I'm really, really concerned about that, because the result of that is what's going to happen to all of his followers, the true Trump believers, right? Who also happen to be extremely right-wing and well-armed. I don't know. It kind of feels like we're sitting on a political powder keg. I don't know if there's going to be violence from Trump supporters if Biden wins. Some have certainly promised that, but I don't know how big or widespread that's going to be. But we have seen him plant the seeds of stochastic terrorism before. Now, there's one more thing, too. Really, really important news. He's in a rush to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg with somebody who's a loyalist. Why? Well, one reason is, of course, to try to get votes from hardcore, conservatives who may have been falling off, right? As well as, I think more importantly, possibly having a court in place to reject mail-in ballots. Again, he's calling them fake ballots. They're not fake, but of course, facts don't matter to them. They want to disenfranchise you. William Barr, the Republican Party, Donald Trump, they want to discount your vote because it won't go to them to keep them in power. Basically, what it boils down to is Trump wants to steal the election. Do you know who does that? Authoritarians. Netanyahu tried to steal an election. Bolsonaro stole an election. He jailed Lula da Silva on phony corruption charges. Vladimir Putin, same thing. What is it going to take for people to understand that this man is a danger to democracy in this country? I mean, I remember the good old days back in 2012 when the worst thing about Mitt Romney was the fact that his policies were complete and utter shit. And then he called 47% of the American people moochers and lazy. At least we didn't have to worry about a dictator. Now we've got that with Donald Trump. And you've got foreign journalists that are warning us what it looks like on the outside. Because I know that, to a lot of people, you're going to look at, you're going to listen to what I'm saying and be like, oh, come on, Jeff, it's not that bad. You're going a little overboard with this, everybody's a fascist thing. No. Here's the thing. It is true. And there are warnings from outside this country, from people on the outside looking in. And they're saying, boy, this does not look good. For example, there was a journalist from Nairobi. This is John Allen Namu. He was recently on CNN. Here's what he said. He said, in terms of how totalitarianism starts to establish itself, this is exactly how it happens. You establish your own set of facts, which Donald Trump has done, and the Republicans. You demonize people who have an opposing view, and you start to divide people into different sections or sub-communities. All things, like I said, that stuff is done. Okay. Not only that, he said it looks fairly clear what's happening in the States. Americans are too close to this story to understand what is going on, and they should wake up before November. There you go. Rana Ayub, an opinion writer for the Washington Post, located in Mumbai, India, said this, and actually drew a comparison between Trump and Modi. She said, I, like many Indians, am viewing what's happening in America with a great deal of apprehension, fear, and anxiety. This is what authoritarian regimes all over the world are repeating. Again, Duterte, Putin, Netanyahu, all these people, Bolsonaro. I hope Americans wake up and realize that this really can't continue. Luke Harding, a journalist in London who's written a great deal about Russia, authoritarianism under Putin, said that he sees, quote, depressing parallels between Putin and Trump. And so that's how people outside of the U.S. are seeing this administration and seeing what is happening. It is happening before our eyes. For those of you who wondered, what would you have done if you were in 1930s Germany and you were seeing the takeover of the republic by the Nazi fascist party? Then, well, we're basically living in it at this point. This is no longer a choice between red and blue, Democrat, Republican, 99% versus 1%. This is between democracy and fascism. And by the way, our democratic institutions right now are weak, are incredibly weak under a conservative assault that has been going on for a very, very long time. Okay? And so that right there, we have to have a democracy to work into. If we don't have that, how are we supposed to fight for good policy? And so, look, understand that we can fight the oligarchy, we can fight the donors, we can fight them through the democratic process. If we no longer have a democratic process, we can't exactly fight, right? Because it is much more difficult to fight against an authoritarian regime that hosts its own version of brown shirts and has no problem sending federal troops to bust people's heads in order for the president to get a photo op. November is going to decide, do we still actually have some semblance of a democracy or we don't? And look, fellow leftists, who do you think Donald Trump's going to crush first? Is it going to be the, Bidens of the world, the centrists, who are more than happy to assist him, or, the Nancy Pelosi's who will vote in his, defense budget? No, he's going to go after the leftists. He's going to go after the left first. And then they're going to go after the trans people, the LGBT plus, and finally, they're going to go after the centrists. We have to prevent that so that we can, fight both the conservatives and the centrists and actually enact good progressive policy. But we can't do that if we have an actual fascist takeover of this country. This is serious, and it's about time to treat it as, like this, with the seriousness that it actually deserves. All right, moving on. Moving on. Let's go to the next story. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg died on Friday, and President Trump is wasting no time in naming her replacement, about a month before the election. Now, in fact, Donald Trump, along with Senator Mitch McConnell, are basically seizing the opportunity to not only put forward a nominee, but also to have that nominee confirmed in record time. In fact, it's going to happen before RBG is even buried. So now, let's go to White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany. When she was asked about this timing, take a look.
62% of Americans say the vacancy left by Ginsburg should be filled by whichever candidate wins this upcoming election. Do you see any way, any scenario that President Trump will go along with that? 62% of voters asked this weekend.
The president is clear in saying that he will be nominating someone to the Supreme Court.
So when will the president announce his nominee, do you think?
Yeah, in the coming days. It will be a very quick turn of events, Gail. So I think
This week?
Yes, you will certainly be hearing this week who that nominee is. So
before Wednesday?
I think that's very likely, but I'll leave that to the president.
You know what? This is literally the fastest we have ever seen both Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell do anything. I mean, a good way to look at this is to contrast it with their response on coronavirus, for example, on COVID-19. You know, it's been about 2 months, almost 2 months since the CARES Act expired on July 31st. That's when Americans stopped getting that extra $600 in unemployment benefits. It's been that long. In that time, Mitch McConnell's taken at least 2 vacations along with the rest of the Senate. I mean, look, back in May, the Democrats passed the HEROES Act and actually, in order to try to get Republicans to be on board, said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a compromise bill up there. Republicans said, nope, we're going to take another vacation, then we're going to come back, and we're going to put forward this slap-in-the-face $300 billion bill that basically does almost nothing except for give $300 a month for a short amount of time in additional federal benefits. And that's for unemployment, right? And so understand that that's not their priority. Their priority is not taking care of the American people. Their priority, but when this comes up, as soon as they get an open spot on the Supreme Court, they move like lightning. Like lightning. Like, I know we like to make fun of Mitch McConnell because he looks like a turtle, but he is not turtling in this case. He is moving very, very fast in order to get this Supreme Court nominee first nominated and then confirmed on the Supreme Court. And they're doing it, of course, like I said before, Ginsburg is even in the ground. I mean, the body's barely cold. And already they're saying, quick, replacement, replace her now. I mean, this is insane. And again, it does show you their priorities. Nothing for the American people, everything for themselves. RBG's death has been a gift to Donald Trump. They have a chance for a 6-3 supermajority. And if they have that supermajority, well, that's it. I mean, that's for a lot of rights, reproductive rights, as well as a lot of other things that we actually care about. You think we're going to get progressive priorities done if we have a super conservative Supreme Court? Even if we do pass, I don't know, a Green New Deal, for example, which, again, under the Democrats, understand that wouldn't happen. But somehow we get this miracle. We get progressives in office, or we move Joe Biden on the issue. And then finally, we're like, all right, we're going to get a Green New Deal. And yet somebody brings a case against it in the Supreme Court. They strike it down. Or we don't even have to go that far. Even the milquetoast that is Obamacare, right? Send Obamacare to the Supreme Court. It's dead. It's dead. We're gone. It's over with. And not only that, but they're going to do even more to dismantle healthcare, labor rights, environmental regulations. Conservatives, they will bring everything they can, everything they didn't like, to the court. It is even possible. I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility that same-sex marriage might see the court again. And if you have an incredibly conservative, socially conservative Supreme Court, they could rule in a way that is incredibly detrimental to the LGBTQ plus community. And look, it's very bad. And again, they're rushing it. Even if Trump loses, they still win in the long term. See, the Republicans do a thing that a lot of liberals don't. They play the long game. Liberals not as good at playing the long game because, I mean, they plan things out for a very long time. Okay, that's why. Look, McConnell has been appointing, a lot of lower court justices, filling a lot of these positions with people that are going to be on these courts for a very, very long time. A lot of these justices are judges, I should say, are very young. And then the Supreme Court justices are also very young, and they're going to be there for a very long time. And they are very ideologically driven, and they're going to, do a lot of legislating from the bench, I feel like. And that's going to be the biggest victory for conservatives in a generation. As for Trump, they don't care about Trump. If Trump gets out of office, who cares? Now, Trump cares about Trump. That's all he cares about. And so he sees this as a way to continue to keep his power. And so he sees the election going to the Supreme Court, possibly like it did in 2000. And he wants to make sure that the Supreme Court is, quote unquote, loyal to him, which I don't know if they will be. But he's going to try to challenge any result that other than him winning. And of course, mail-in ballots. That's one of the big ones because mail-in ballots are going to take a while to count. It's going to be past November 3rd, and he's going to try to rule them as, basically fraudulent. It's not a good situation. It's not a good situation at all. I mean, my fear is that all the in-person votes by Donald Trump supporters are going to make it appear that he has won on November 3rd. And then as the actual vote comes in, which will show Biden winning, he's going to accuse Democrats of stealing the election. He's going to take it to court. And maybe they'll just throw out just enough ballots due to quote-unquote fraud, right? Voter fraud, which will be unsupported by evidence. And then there goes our democracy. It's over. Good night, America. And we have become fully a authoritarian kleptocracy. And that's it. I mean, look, what sucks too is that I don't have enough faith in the Democrats to actually really fight this. I mean, we see some things from Chuck Schumer that are like, oh, we're going to use everything's going to be on the table, but it's going to be on the table next year. Well, what is next year going to help us now? No, you have to fight this now. And what can they actually do? Well, look, there's no filibuster on justices at this point, right? So Harry Reid got rid of that. And so, well, now, yes, they can appoint someone and they can confirm someone in very quick order. And there's really nothing we can do about that particular part. But there are procedural tricks. There are ways to gum up the works. A lot of them should have been paying attention to Mitch McConnell for a long time because Mitch McConnell kind of shows you how to be an obstructionist. The guy could write a book on obstruction. Maybe we should take some lessons from that and gum up the works just long enough to that, we have an election. Again, that was RBG's last wish is, hey, don't let them appoint someone before the election is over. And look, if it goes the way of Donald Trump legitimately winning the election, then he's earned it. And we slide into fascism knowing that the majority of Americans were okay with that. Well, that still sucks. But hey, I guess that's democracy, and that's how democracy dies. But this is different. This is different. And so we do have to fight this. The Democrats, you've got to do something more than strongly worded letters. It's not going to, stupid petitions. I mean, the Republicans are laughing at your stupid letters. Do you know that most Republicans right now, I think there's only 2 that have publicly signed on and pledged to not vote for someone until after the election. And I believe that's Suzanne Collins and Lisa Murkowski. But again, these are Republicans. When democracy hinges on Republicans doing the right thing, you have a problem. And that's the problem, okay? That's the thing. That's incredibly scary. Not good at all. Most of these Republican congressmen are going to vote to confirm whatever nutcase they nominate to the Supreme Court. And Donald Trump has a short list of them, which included at some point Ted Cruz and Tom Cotton. I don't care what kind of procedural tricks the Democrats have to use. And again, there are some of them, making sure that they block everything else in order to get them to delay, doing a confirmation, something like that. I don't know. But look, this nominee cannot end up on the court before this election. People's lives in the country are absolutely at stake. They need to get their head out of their ass. All right. I'm going to take a break. We're going to come back. We've got information on one of Donald Trump's possible SCOTUS picks to take over for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We'll talk about that right after this break. Around the Nation.
Wet ass P word.
Mike Pounds.
Tighten up my meat. I like my meat tight.
Everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the nation right here, Waldorf Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you. Okay, so, Super Chats. Real quick here. Danko Bango says, political violence is coming. Experts promise it. Yeah, but how widespread is it going to be? And that is a scary thing. Weary Pirate says, RBG should have stepped down under Obama. True. So, look. Here's the thing that frustrates me. I mean, there's a lot of things that frustrate me about Democrats and liberals. They're too busy with their, I don't know, bullshit imagery and moral victories to win. But what good is a moral victory if you don't have any power? And that's the problem. Liberals and Democrats suck at power. They don't get power. And when they do get power, they refuse to use it in order to get policy positions. And there are plenty other ways, I should say there are plenty other of reasons here why they don't actually do it, because maybe they don't actually want change, because of the donors, because of corruption, all that stuff, right? And they don't want to exercise that power. Progressives, we would exercise that power, but we are consistently locked out of the political process because of, donors and the establishment and things like that. And so, again, this is the frustration here that I have. They could have put someone in other than RBG. RBG had a pretty good record for the most part. Some mixed decisions, some bad decisions, but generally overall pretty good, right? So Obama could have picked someone to replace her in the same mold, in the same vein, right? That's going to be like pro-corporate on a lot of things, but also pro-workers' rights on other things. It really depends on the case. And of course, obviously, you're going to be pro-LGBTQ and pro-women's rights and things like that. That's what they should have done. But instead, they hinged all their hopes on Hillary fucking Clinton. And that's right there, the fucking hubris of the Democratic Party, thinking that they could put up somebody like Hillary Clinton, who decided not to campaign in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, and hinge all those judgeships and all of those, Mitch McConnell, you think Mitch McConnell would have let that happen? Mitch McConnell, Harry Reid blew up the filibuster. Mitch McConnell wouldn't have had the ability to stop it. And that's ironically the same thing that makes it that the Democrats cannot actually do a filibuster of a Supreme Court nominee right now. And so, Dango, you're actually wrong on that one procedurally. That's why they can put up and confirm a nominee. And it makes it very, very limited options for Democrats to be able to fight back. But look, going back to RBG, again, they tried to, they pinned all the hopes on somebody who's the establishment in an anti-establishment year. That's insane. And they thought, oh, no, Hillary's going to get it. She did get the popular vote. She did, absolutely. She won by about 3 million. And in a country that actually literally believes in democracy, she would be president right now. But we have this insane system here in this country, insane old racist system of the Electoral College that, by the way, Republicans love the Electoral College because it's basically the only thing that allows them to continue winning the presidency. What is it? Most of the Republican presidents in recent history only won because of the Electoral College, did not actually win the popular vote. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, Dark, you're right. RBG had the option to retire during the Obama years, but chose to stay on, even though she had cancer for the third. I know. And that's, again, They all like thought, no, Hillary's got this in the bag. She's fine. She's gonna get her a Supreme Court appointment, even though the Republicans promised to leave that entire seat empty for the entire 4 years. You want to talk about Republicans with hypocrisy? They don't give a damn about their hypocrisy. They don't care. They don't care. All they care about is getting power. And understand that you cannot reason with people like that. And again, back to the Democrats and why they suck so goddamn bad at politics. They fucking suck. I said it. They suck. They suck. They're terrible at this. Paid to lose. Paid to lose. Every single, establishment Democrat paid to lose. They couldn't win if their lives depended on it. And you know what sucks? Our lives do. Our lives do depend on it. Primary, every single one of those hacks. Get them out. Get them out. Or else we've lost the country. We've lost the country. Anyway, okay, let's move on. We're running out of time. All right. Hold on here. The right one. Okay. This week, President Donald Trump is scheduled to announce his nominee to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the Supreme Court. And one of them happens to be a insanely right-wing judge. And so let me give you the details on Amy Coney Barrett. She is a 48-year-old appellate judge, and she was actually up for consideration back in 2018. So that's when, of course, another Supreme Court, this was Anthony Kennedy's Supreme Court seat was open. And, of course, that we ended up getting Brett Kavanaugh. But now that RBG's seat is open and Trump has said we are strongly considering appointing a woman to that position, well, here comes Barrett. So now, in case you think, oh, it's a woman, well, thank God. Yes, she'll probably be super fiscally conservative, but, I mean, she might care about, women's rights. Nope. In fact, Barrett is associated with an extremist Catholic group called People of Praise. So, People of Praise. So here's what the New York Times says about this particular group. People of Praise are controversial even within Catholicism. Founded in 1971, the group incorporates elements of fundamentalist Pentecostal Protestantism, such as speaking in tongues. Now, okay, well, that's not so bad. However, they also require a loyalty oath to the group over everything else. So loyalty to the cult, not the Constitution, as well as the edict that wives must be submissive to their husband. And in the past, People of Praise called female leaders handmaidens, which, of course, makes me think of Handmaid's Tale. Because, of course, they're actually considered a cult by mainstream Catholics. So they're extremely patriarchal. They believe that while women can have some leadership positions, they ultimately must submit to male authority. So understand that that's going to trickle down into everything that she does. This justice, if she is on the court, she's not going to be making her own decisions based on the Constitution. She is going to be making these decisions based on a religious cult that puts women as second-class citizens. Now, do you think that person is going to defend Roe v. Wade? Do you think that person is going to defend women's rights in any capacity? Nope. Not at all. In fact, this is why Mitch McConnell, back in 2018, was like, nah, dude, no go. Go pick someone else. Pick someone else. Now, she has found herself back on Trump's shortlist. Gee, I wonder why. Look, I can't fathom the kind of destruction that someone like that will bring to women's rights. Obviously, the end of Roe v. Wade. Okay? No more abortion rights for the poor. Rich people can still be able to get abortions because they've always been able to get abortions. Rich people, connected people, look at Scott Desjardins, look at the supposed pro-life movement. There are people littered with abortions, with dead babies everywhere, to put it in their perspective, right? Or their language. But they don't care. They don't care. Look, you could even have a situation where they come after birth control. You might think, wait a minute. Well, remember, these Catholic fundamentalists, not in favor of birth control either. And remember, that's only been legal since the 60s. Not very long. I mean, think of other things as well. Women in positions of power in the government, in the workplace, childcare. I mean, you could even see rulings against encouraging more, paid childcare policies, right? With an express interest in keeping women in the home and out of the workplace. Also think of protections for women who are battered, who are in abusive relationships, making it difficult for them to leave because there will not be enough resources. Again, look at the ways that they could really have an impact on the Supreme Court. I mean, it's horrifying. And so just think of the result of someone like that in power. It's not, I mean, it's a bad future for women. I mean, regardless, but even so, this is a really terrible case, a really terrible person to have on the Supreme Court. And you could only imagine, of course, conservatives pushing tons of cases at the Supreme Court to get rulings on their various social issues, which help to cement their power and help them win the culture wars. And that's what this is. And look, this is only one of their picks. There are others. I'm pretty sure, though, however, anyone under consideration is not going to be in favor of reproductive rights. Why is that? Because it's politics, of course. They got to throw out the red meat to the base. We are 1 month away from election time, and Donald Trump is struggling in some of the polls against Biden. They got to get their base out. It's exactly the kind of right, red meat that they need. Now, at the same time, it could also help Democrats and Biden if the Democrats manage to somehow block a vote until the election. I don't know how they're going to do that. They don't have a filibuster and judicial nominees. Harry Reid, went nuclear, blew that up. But there's, there are ways that they could try to use whatever, what little power that they actually have to gum up the works and procedural votes and basically try to wait out the clock. Whether or not the Democrats actually do that is really an open question, and it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be an open question. But again, with the weakness and fecklessness of Democrats, again, you never really know. But the safe bet is to bet on Democrats rolling over and allowing people like this to get appointed to the Supreme Court. And it's really, really terrible. But, I'm hoping that something is going to happen, that they're going to try to be able to block it successfully until after the election. If not, look, the women's right to choose, it's probably the first thing that's going to go, and it won't be the last thing to go. And that has got me, again, very, very concerned. Okay. I know some of you are saying government shutdown. Another way to do it that I've heard people talk about is impeaching William Barr. That is certainly something that is pretty interesting. It's not like he hasn't done enough for us to have some serious questions about his impartiality. So there are options. It just depends on whether or not the Democrats are really actually interested in fighting. And again, that's a super open question. All right. Let's move on here. The Department of Justice, under Attorney General William Barr, has just designated 3 American cities as anarchist jurisdictions. So now, what does that mean? Well, we'll get to the details here, but this is according to NBC News. The Justice Department designated New York City, Portland, and Seattle as quote-unquote anarchist jurisdictions under guidelines issued by President Trump earlier this month. Trump's September 2nd memo directs federal agencies to minimize funding for these cities, designated as under anarchist jurisdiction, setting up a fight, of course, before the election. In trying to set this up and justifying it, they said New York City is one of the 3 places that have permitted violence and destruction of property to persist and have refused to undertake reasonable measures to counteract criminal activity. So, wait, now what do they mean by that? Well, New York has decided to not violently crush the overwhelmingly peaceful protests for Black Lives Matter. You know, the place where 93% of the protests were entirely peaceful. And 7%, again, a result of some people who just, want to get a free TV that are not affiliated with Black Lives Matter, or police coming in and using force against these protesters, to which the protesters responded with force. Right-wing agitators and things like that, infiltrators from police, et cetera, et cetera. Again, the vast majority, peaceful. And Donald Trump said, no, crush them. Bring in the military, crack their skulls. I don't care what you do. Just crush these people. We don't want them. And this is his whole quote-unquote law and order thing. This is what he's running on. So now, that said, the reason that he's pushed so hard on this is because it's an election year. It's 100% political. The culture war is coming to a head. And so, as a result, he's going to say, look at me, I'm so tough. I cut this funding to Democratic governors, to Democratic mayors in these cities. And that's what it is. NYC Mayor Bill de Blasio responded to this by saying, I was out in Elmhurst, Queens this morning. I saw peace, tranquility. I saw people going about their business. People excited. It's the first day of school. I saw anything but anarchy. It's just another one of President Trump's games. It's insulting to the people of New York City, and his effort to withhold our funding is unconstitutional. The city's top lawyer said his office was preparing to fight any funding cuts to the court. So now, look, if you're an anarchist jurisdiction, again, according to Trump, they can cut your funding. Trump's order gives the director of the Office of Management and Budget 30 days to issue guidance to federal agencies in restricting eligibility for federal grants to the cities on the DOJ list. Grants make up a huge portion of NYC's budget, more than $7 billion in fiscal 2021 alone, or 7.5% of the city's projected total revenue. So it's a significant amount of money. In justifying the decision, the DOJ cited New York's rising gun violence, cuts to the NYPD's budget, and moves by various district attorneys not to prosecute charges related to protests earlier this summer. So now this is bad because here you have the president, basically issuing something to William Barr during an election year that's purely political, right? And it's happening during COVID-19. COVID-19 has affected the states quite badly, okay? Thousands of small businesses have closed. Millions of people are out of work. The mass evictions are here. And now you have the DOJ threatening funding. And he's been doing this for a while. Trump has been threatening funding to these cities for a long time, again, to try to say, look at me, I'm so law and order. I'm going to go and I'm going to cut the funding to these Democrat cities, these Democrat mayors. And conservatives, they love it. They cheer this on. And it's all, of course, to make a political point. Donald Trump is desperate to stir up the base. He is doing everything he can to get his people out to the polls and to show how much of a strong man he is. But what are the Democrats doing? I mean, look, in 2016, they did not try to get their people out. They thought, oh, no, we got this in the bag. They shut out progressives by running somebody like Hillary Clinton. Now what are they doing today? They're running Joe Biden. Joe Biden, not anybody's first choice. Nobody's first choice except the establishment, who definitely put their thumb on the scale in order to help Biden. Again, Biden was doing very, very badly before Super Tuesday. And so they lined up and they helped him. And that's, again, not going to help with the Democratic base, who overwhelmingly wants things like Medicare for all and a Green New Deal. And so, look, Biden's problems are, he's got a lot of them. He's got no ground game. Donald Trump's, his campaign's knocking on $1 million doors in Michigan. Donald Trump, his campaign is doing that. Biden's campaign is not doing any of that. And by the way, I know before you guys jump on me about but COVID-19, there is a way that you can do canvassing safely during a pandemic. Wear your mask, do your social distancing while you're canvassing, and you should be fine. It can be done. But again, the Biden and the Democrats are once again, they're not doing what they need to do to bring up the base. And they're allowing this to happen. Okay? They've got to fight Donald Trump using whatever tool that they can. They have to stop thinking, no, this time the strategy of we're not Trump is good enough. Because it's not. It's not. They need to fight. They need to be aggressive. They need to say, these are the policies we're in favor of. We are in favor of Medicare for all. We are in favor of a Green New Deal. We are going to do these things if you help us get into power. If you get us into power, we're going to fight for this. But they haven't done so. And again, this is why liberals, they don't win. They don't win because they're not aggressive. And they don't know how to wield power, or they're not interested in wielding the power that they have. Do you ever think that Democrats would ever have tried to cut off funding to Alabama or anything like that? Or even Charlottesville, right? Where there was the Unite the Rights rallies. No, they would never have done that. Never. By the way, those Unite the Right rallies turned into violence because the people that showed up there on the Nazi side were ready for violence. They were prepared for it, and a person died, was run over by a car. Would Democrats have, said, oh, look at the anarchy. Oh, look at that. No, they never would have done that. But but the Republicans, they look at Democrat cities and go, oh, I can't believe you're having 93% peaceful protests for Black Lives Matter. Shut them down. Shut them down. Cut all their funding. Look at us. We're law and order. Ridiculous. No, they're barely fighting against Trump. And they barely fought against Trump the entire time. They fought harder against progressives and Bernie Sanders. And now you've got, Donald Trump getting another possible SCOTUS pick. You've got William Barr trying to cut funding for these cities that are under Democrat control during a pandemic and an economic downturn. And, you've got nobody that's fighting against it. Nobody. And it frustrates the hell out of me. And it scares me as well. Why are they not out there fighting and doing everything they can to win? Because look, what we know, Donald Trump and William Barr, they're doing, and the Republicans are doing everything they can to win. Everything, and we should be doing the same. Take nothing for granted. Fight. All right. All right. That's all I got time for today. We'll have to do the voter suppression story tomorrow. I know we are fighting. Progressives are fighting, but the Democrats, the liberals, are not fighting, and that's the problem. All right. All right. That's all I got time for today on the show. Thank you for going on the nation with me today. I'm sorry the show was such a downer, but we've got all sorts of terrible news today as a result of course, RBG and, of course, the overall terribleness. All right. Shouldn't the cult association bar her from holding any power again? Well, no, because she's going to follow orders. So Donald Trump's going to get, his female, SCOTUS pick, and she's all still going to be controlled by men. So it works out really well in their favor. So there you go. Thank you, Shane. Appreciate that. All right. I'm out of here. Thank you, guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you all tomorrow. Fight continues.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
Tolerate.
I like my meat tight. Tighten up my meat.
Please clap.
Why, you're getting nervous, man.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.